Today we have the honour of speaking with an exceptional individual who's transformed adversity into triumph. From battling addiction and brushes with the law to becoming a beacon of hope for mental health advocacy, our guest's journey is a testament to the power of resilience and redemption. Please welcome Gareth Jones, the mental health wanderer. Gareth Jones, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. How are you doing today? How's training going?
I'm actually on a rest week, so it's going absolutely terrible. I hate sitting still, but yes, it's going really well. It couldn't go any better, to be honest.
What does a rest week look like for you? Is it like low intensity stuff? Are you still knocking out 30-mile runs, or is it proper rest?
So on the weekend now, I have got a marathon planned in, but whereas my rest weeks are normally around about 40, 50, 60 kilometers, I don't tend to do that many long runs during my training. So like a rest week for me is I hit the gym, I do a lot of yoga, I do anything really to keep myself active, and to substitute the running. So I guess it's not so much a rest week as some people would class it as, but it's more self-care for my body than stopping completely, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you are an experienced ultra endurance challenge athlete, I would say. Like you've done some epic challenges over the recent years, and you only started running in COVID, right?
Yeah, so I've probably been running now about 2.5 years, maybe slightly just over. So I'd probably disagree with you where I'd say I'm an experienced ultra runner.
I know you have no right doing these runs, like 300 miles, 200 miles. You have no right doing it.
Well, I haven't, and I'll always hold my hands up, and I still to this day I'll admit I'm like I don't like to class myself as a runner, and people are saying you're stupid, you've done this, you've done that. But to be honest with you, I still feel so inexperienced compared to the likes of like 60-year-old marathon runners and people who have been around the bush, you know?
Yeah.
I got so much respect for them.
Well, can you give us a quick breakdown then of like your challenge CV? So in the last 2.5 years, what have you managed to achieve?
So the first thing I'd say I achieved which started it all off, was a charity event for Maggie's. It's like a cancer organization, and I got signed up for it, and it was run 50 miles throughout January. Well, when I signed up for the Facebook page, I seen that people were slightly apprehensive about doing the challenge. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to run 50 miles in one day. I'm going to do it January the 1st. Where that come from, I have no idea. But I went out and done it. Albeit very, very poorly and very hard. But I definitely, and before this, I hadn't done very little running. You're talking like 5K, 10K a week, if that. And I had a bug. I got hooked then. Then a couple of months after that, probably about 5 months after that, I started the Mental Health Wanderer page. And I could see that people were really struggling through lockdown, including myself. So I decided I was going to get on a train one day up to North Wales and run down the Offord Dyke and run home as well, making it 200 miles. So I'd gone from running like nothing to 50 miles, and then 5 months later I run 200 miles. And
it's incredible.
And ever since then, really, I guess about 4 months after that, I done a 130 miler just off my own back. It's like a fastest known time thing. Then the August after that, so exactly to the day, a year after the 200 miler, I done 300 miles down the Cambrian Way, which is one of the toughest trails in Wales, or so I found out. And then I wanted to broaden my horizons a bit and just show people as well that like we don't have to be secluded to like our little tiny island, you know. So I traveled to Italy to do an ultra over there, really put myself out of the comfort zone and the confidence zone. And as I was flying over there, it was a 50 odd mile ultra. Anyway, as I was flying over, the race got cancelled. And when we arrived over there, I was like, I'm still doing this run. Okay, the weather was great. Well, you know, it was Welsh weather, so it was great. Linked up with this French dude, and we run the route. The race directors were all for it, and I mean, you know, it wasn't the longest of distances, or did it take the, you know, it's not as long as some of my other runs, but it was probably more nerve-wracking because we were in a different country. We were running up Mount Etna, and I was with a guy that could hardly speak English, you know. But me and him, we connected in ways that, like, we didn't need to speak, we didn't need language and everything, and it was probably one of the best runs I've done.
It's like a shared suffering, isn't it? That's what you're connecting it.
Was, yeah, just two random people from across the world connecting on the hills in Italy in the pouring down rain, because we were too stubborn or too tight to lose the money on the race, so we decided to do.
Why was it cancelled? Out of interest, why was it cancelled?
Because part of the Sicilian island got flooded, terrible, like bad storms. So they took the precaution, and because it was a really treacherous route anyway, you're talking like landslides and stuff. They took the precaution to cancel the race in advance. But then when we woke up the next day, it wasn't the best weather, but it wasn't, you know, I've seen like 10-year-olds running worse weather in Aberdeen.
Yeah.
But they had to take the precaution, unfortunately. And then I'd probably say 7 months on from there, so I'd done a few races in between, a couple of marathons, managed to get a sub 3 hour marathon into an Ashley full marathon, which was fantastic, a massive achievement for myself.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. And after that, it really, like, that speed and that, you know, training for that, just that fast paced stuff, it really broke my body, and I was like, you know, I'm not really cut out for this. I'm built too big for this and everything. So I changed it up, and I had to sit down, I had to think, and I was like, what can I do next? And I knew I probably wouldn't complete this challenge, but I knew it was going to be the one that would, and I knew I was nowhere near ready for it. You know, you're talking inexperience. Didn't have a team. It was loads of factors against me, right? The pros and cons were like tenfold cons, right? It was insane. But anyway, I decided I was going to run the joggle. 3 years exactly to the day. Was it 3 years or 2 years? I forget. 2 years to the day, I ran my first 200 miler. I started in John O'Groat. I didn't know how it was going to go. I probably knew how the first 300 miles was going to go, but after that, it was all like new to me. I thought I trained well for it. Now I think back, there's a lot of other things I could have done and put in place, but it served its purpose. You know, every footstep at the beginning was like a nightmare. From the moment we started, it just started pouring down. My shoes didn't fit. Everything was going against me. But you know, it was fun. That's exactly why I done it. And I was slightly disappointed on day 6, where I had to admit to everyone, I was like, I'm not going to reach Land's End. I'm not going to reach in 12, because I only had 12 days due to work. I was like, I'm not going to reach it. And I think it was the bravest decision I've ever made in my life, was that moment. I had just come over the mountains in Scotland, over the Cairngorms, and I sat on the chair, and everyone knew it. It was 4 people with me at the time. The physio was there who drove up to see me. They all knew it was coming, and I sat in the chair, and I was like, right, get the video camera ready for me. And it was like this wave had just come over me. It was like, it's okay, admit defeat, you know? And I admitted it to everyone. I was like, I'm not making Land's End, blah, 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 blah. And instantly, it was like this wave of relief had just come over me,
Oh, I bet.
you know? I think it was because when you're racing against the clock, you're racing for people, you're racing for the charity, you're racing for money and all this good stuff. And you're racing just for the people that's watching you, want to watch you fail, because unfortunately there is people out there that do that. But when I took that off my shoulders, and now I was in a position where I could just run for myself, the next 6 days, I could either give up and go home after the 6th day, or I could carry on and just bloody enjoy it. And that's what I done. I free railed the last 6 days, the last 300 odd miles. I just made my own path, made my own way. Just really had a good time.
That's
Yeah,
brilliant. Yeah, it's weird how just a slight reframing in the mind sort of opened up this enjoyment and possibilities that you're able to put down on the road. It's a funny one, but you weren't always this stoic, resilient, athletic man. You come from quite difficult beginnings, right? And you were an addict at one point. Uh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Can you give me an idea of sort of what led you down this path of addiction, and sort of how bad did it actually get for you?
Um, I guess what led me down the addiction was, and I have to say, I had a really supportive family. They were always there. We were a close knit family. But growing up, you know, I guess I witnessed my mother going through some things, um, and and the reason she went through them things, it was just not enough help for my stepfather. You know, he had his own addictions, his own demons, and there wasn't enough help out there for him at that time. And unfortunately, it unfortunately got the better of him. But me being a young child, I witnessed some things, um, and and I'd just like to say before I go on, if if we could go back then, and I am the person I am now, I'd help him. I just want to say that. But anyway, I witnessed some things to do with that, so that was always on the back of my mind. I was always kind of chunky in school, so I was overweight, so I had that to contend with as well. I wasn't as fast as the other people. I wasn't as good looking as the other people and everything. And then, so I guess I put up with a little bit of bullying. Then my grandfather, he was like my shining light. I loved him to no end. He passed away. Before he passed away, he was very ill, with emphysema, bad chest, and as a kid, I always tried to do my best for him, and I guess when he passed away, I took it very hard. And on the day of his funeral, I remember dropping pills, and I think from that moment on, I didn't come down again for another at least 10 years.
Really, it's just
From
constant.
yeah. So yeah, I took pills that day, and then like things just started to spiral out of control. We were just doing recreational drugs with my friends at the time on weekends. And then weekends for me turned into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then rolled into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and so on. You know the score. And they were just still doing it on weekends. I started doing amphetamine during the week, just because I didn't really like sleeping. So I used to take a lot of speed just to keep me awake, and then I'd smoke a lot of weed when I needed to sleep.
Yeah.
I was literally dodging reality. I had so much built up in my mind that I was taking the drugs just to mask my problems.
Mm.
Uh, I was working in a full-time job just to feed my addiction, and I was living in my nan's bedroom, so I had no rent to pay, nothing, no outgoings, except my drug debts. And it's I guess it started getting worse when I realized, I had lost everyone around me. Like I'd lost the trust of my family. Um, I'd lost all my friends through trust. Even though they'd done drugs themselves, I had lost their trust because I was just a lot worse than them. Um, like when I got caught stealing off one of them, just only stealing the score off them, but it was still bad.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, so I guess it got really bad to the extent of um, you end up owing a lot of people money, violence. You end up getting your bloody head kicked in
Yeah.
on several occasions. You're constantly coming home with black eyes, broken noses, and and so on. Yeah.
Were you aware of how bad it had got in the moment, or were you sort of living in a denial where you would just it wasn't your fault, it was everyone else's?
Yeah, I guess I've always I've always kind of had my I've always had my head screwed on. So I kind of knew what I was doing, but I thought I had it under control. Um and to a certain extent I think I did, because like I was working, I was doing a full-time job. I was coming home, I was doing drugs on my own, I was going for long walks in the mountain off my face. Coming home, going to sleep, I was really playing the system with this drugs thing, to the point that people used to think I was on drugs when I was straight,
Really?
you know? So because I was masking it so well, um, it was quite scary because like I could get away with it.
Mm.
Except for my major binges on the weekends when you used to like stay up and do pills and ketamine and all you end up smoking cocaine. just to help me um just to help me get through life, really.
I see it around me at the moment. I see people that there's a lot of recreational drug taking going on. We've all been there, we've all done it, and like, but it is fun at the time. But I see so many people around me get caught in that cycle, and then they are never able to break that cycle. As you say, it's weekend to weekend, and then it slowly turns into 2 days on a weekend, then slowly 3 days on a weekend. Before you know it, they're doing it 4 or 5 times a week, and even the daily use that you're on about, it's quite. How much of a problem is it in Aberdare? Because I'm from Penarth down in South Wales, and I can see it up the pub. You can point at the people who are definitely on it just up the pub, with their eyes everywhere. Like, how's it like? What's it like in Aberdare?
Yeah, I think it's a lot worse now than it was when I was growing up. Because like for me, it all started off with smoking weed and drinking. And like when we used to smoke a spliff, we used to hide up the mountain or like behind the garages or something like that. And now you walk down the street and like kids, 14, 13, 14 years, are just walking past you with a spliff. I'm like, they just don't care, you know. I'm not sure if it's they don't care or the law doesn't care anymore, because we were always scared to do that. And I mean, if they can get away with that, like they're getting away with a lot worse.
Mm,
And I know drugs. I went out. I don't really go out that often, but I went out a couple of months ago. I don't drink anymore, so when you're out, you have a real eyeful of what's going on.
mm.
And there was people walking around with like just, you know, like I used to, blood over the lips, massive eyes, totally off their face. And I was like, this is probably 90% of the people that's out. And, and I guess people just feel like they have to do that. And I guess buying like a gram of speed or a couple of pills is still cheaper, or definitely cheaper than buying the drink from behind the bar. It's more
Yeah,
accessible,
yeah.
which is,
I went out recently. It was £5, £5.50 for a bottle of alcohol-free beer. It's criminal. Like, it's ridiculous now. And when they are selling a little bit of speed for a tenner or something, you're definitely going to go for that rather than the other stuff. But there's a great Jordan Peterson quote, and the question is not why do you do drugs, because it's obvious why we do drugs. In one regards, they're pretty fun. The question is, why don't you do drugs? And it's all the negative stuff that comes with it. The reasons why, that's the reasons why you shouldn't do it, and the responsibilities in your life that you have, that you need to be sober in order to conduct yourself properly with the responsibilities. It's That's the question people need to be asking themselves. Can you share a pivotal moment or a realization that maybe you had that motivated you to break free from this addiction?
Yeah, I had a few of them over the years. Moments of reflection and, oh my God, I'm done here. This is the last chance I'm having. But it's never the last chance, especially not when you're an addict, or you live in that lifestyle, because as soon as you take drugs again the next day, you forget about it and you get on with it. But there was one pivotal moment in my life that was the first time really that I really wanted to take my own life as well. And I'll be quite open in saying that. It was the anniversary of my friend's death, and me and my mate were walking home from the mountain where we celebrated, and we passed the flat. We passed this flat where local junkies lived, resided, wherever they do. Right? Even though I was a drug addict, I resented them. You know what it's like. It's a vicious circle, isn't it? Anyway, I had a little bit too much alcohol, probably been up about 3 or 4 nights, so I wasn't quite over there, and decided it'd be a good idea to get rid of them out of the village. Bearing in mind, even though I was a raging drug addict as well, I'd still seen them as the scum of the earth. It's funny how you look at things, isn't it? But, so I took matters into my own hands and went through the door, put my foot through the door. It's kind of a blur, but I remember like hitting people when on the floor. I remember throwing a TV up, like these people who were just smacked up on the floor, and like pushing this woman over, and I think I even hit her. Smashed all the windows in the flat, chucked like the stereos through the flat, and made a mess. And then I left. My friend was still outside, and I remember walking back up to him, and he was standing there drinking his can, just watching me do this. And there's about four or five of them in the flat. So I must have been right off my face. Right? Must have just, don't know, like some like superhuman strength or something like that. But when I was leaving, the woman ran up to the window and shouted through the smashed window. I can't remember exactly what she shouted, but I ran back up and I put my fist through the rest of the window, blood everywhere. And I said to her, if you aren't gone by tomorrow, I'm going to come back and light this fucking flat on fire. And I said it exactly like that. Now, I left, went home quite scared, I will be honest, because I knew my blood was there. And I knew they knew who I was. I jumped in a shower. I was so off my face. I was trying to put bleach over myself just to get rid of any evidence and everything. And my mother was there this time. And then that flat got boarded up and they were moved out. My job was done. I'd done what I wanted to do. But in the time, 6 months passed. From that moment to 6 months, right, I had met someone, the mother of my children, and I was like, okay, I'm going to sort myself out. I was still smoking weed. I was still dabbling a little bit in drugs, but I was like kind of there. I might have gone back to the hard stuff and all that, but I was thinking about getting clear and joining the army. Well, I was setting up down my nan's garden with the radio, bucket full of cans and a spliff to listen to the Wales England match. And she shouts down the garden, the police are outside. And I'm like, what have I done now? You know, and I walk out and there's two coppers there, and I know the both coppers, so I've dealt with them before. And they're like, look, Gareth, we have to arrest you for attempted murder. And I'm like, you know, there's probably two words you never want to hear.
Yeah.
You know? I instantly just froze. I was like, my life flashed before my eyes. I was like, I'm actually starting to turn my life around a bit. And now this. It's like a big test, you know? They drove me over to Merthyr police station. They let me keep my mobile for the first half of the journey so I can make some phone calls to my missus. And how would you explain that, you know? Taken to the cell, where I sat in the cell. I'm not very good in tight spots anyway, but I was in there and I was like, I'm going to prison for life. You know, I'm going down. And I was like, I haven't even fucking done anything. Anyway, they told me what it was for. It was for that flat, and they found my blood. Well, the people in the flat said that I tried to set the house on fire. Now, I admitted to them everything I'd done in that flat, but I did not try to light that flat on fire that night. I threatened them with it the next day, but I didn't do it. Now, I only got away with it because none of their stories matched. Right? They all told different stories because they were all off their face themselves. I got away lucky. I got done for criminal damage, and that was it. But when I was sitting in that cell waiting for the verdict, I guess, waiting for the defining moment of my life, am I going to prison that's going to ruin my life, or am I going to get one of them other chances that I've given up so often in the past before? And I was sitting there with my little microwave lasagna, and I had the spork in my hand, and I was thinking, if they say I'm going to prison, there's only one way out of this for me. I can't go to prison. And that was the first time I had thoughts go through my head of actually just sticking that spork, you know, and just...
What, plastic spork?
Plastic spork, yeah.
I don't mean to make light of it, the situation. I don't mean to make light of it.
No, yeah, but you should, because in my head now, you know, I laugh at it because like that was the defining moment for me when I was sitting on that hard chair on the concrete bed with the spork and the lasagna, and I'm thinking like, yeah, I can't do this, and you know, and then it come out, and I say I got away with it because, you know, I did, because I should have, you know, I should have got a lot. It should have been a worse outcome, and I deserved the worst outcome as well. But something above, you know, above or below or wherever people are watching over us, someone had my back that day and gave me another chance, and that was the defining moment for me. I'll be honest, you know, I still had my moments after that. It was a long, bloody process, but I wised up. There was no more trouble. You know, the only other battle I had then was with the drugs and the eating disorder I developed later on. But, you know, yeah, that was the pinnacle moment for me.
How did you discover your sense of purpose then? And how has it influenced your journey of recovery and advocacy of mental health now?
I guess because, like, it's quite a difficult question. You know, where did I find my purpose? Because I still don't really understand my purpose. I just like live my life every day now as if I was given that second chance. So my purpose, my purpose to myself is just to live life to the best of my ability and to show others that they can too. And the years they spend worrying or on drugs or whatever it may be, worrying about money or just everyday life struggles, you know, they're just wasting time that they could be putting into themselves. And all that effort they waste being sad and being lonely and, stressing, if they just flip that over and put that into themselves and don't care what other people think, then I think that's the real purpose. That's my purpose, anyways, just to show other people that, they are worth it, I
Yeah.
guess.
That's what I see from the message that you're spreading with the Mental Health Wanderer platform. Is you're offering this inspiration to other people that could be suffering out there, and as purposes go, that's a pretty goddamn good one. Where did the Mental Health Wanderer come from? That like was it? Did you come up for it on a run one day, or think of it?
Yeah, I did. I guess I always wanted it to be around. I wanted it to be around mental health. I wasn't really into like Instagram, Facebook, or anything at that time. It was all new to me, and I was just sitting here trying to put two words together, and I was like, yeah, mental health. I'd like mental health in there. And then, I was like, what do I do? And I'm like, because still to this day, I never say like I'm going for a run or I'm doing a run or, it's always, to me, it's always an adventure. It's always a wander because like you don't really run anyway, you know, you don't wake up in the morning and say, I want to run near, you go out and it's always a journey. To me, it is anyway. And that's the way I see it. And that's why it keeps so fresh. Every race I do is it's just a bloody wander in the forest. And that's kind of where I come up with it. It's just a mental health wanderer. Yeah.
And how is it important to like how much? What does it mean to you then? What does it give to you that carrying this message? What do you get out of being this sort of person carrying the torch?
Um, to be honest, it gives me motivation and it gives me a lot more inspiration that people think I give them. And I'm not talking about likes or shares or thumbs up on Facebook or Instagram. I'm talking about like the real deep stories that people share with me or that I see through the page and stuff. Is that, if they can do it, then I can do anything. Like as a little boy in Northern Ireland, I don't know if you've noticed on one of my posts that I keep in touch with a lot. Conan, he goes through some horrible shit every day. He fights off bullies. He struggles with his own mental health. And I mean, he's a young teenager. And he's kind of my focus point at the moment and through every event that I do, because I think if he can get up every day and live his life to the best of his ability, then why can't I? Um, and that's what I get from it, and that's all I hope to ever get from it. I just want to change that one person's view of him throughout the 15,000 followers that's on Instagram. He's pretty much the only one I care about when I post, as long as he sees it and we help each other out.
Yeah. How did you come across this chap then? Did he reach out or something? Or?
His mother followed the page years ago. We just started talking. I can't really remember how we met actually. It was quite embarrassing. But we started talking. She shared his story with me, and then we done a little bit of a collaboration. Then back last year, where he done a challenge, I done a challenge. When I was doing the joggle, actually, he was doing like 5K a day every day whilst I was out there. So we done this thing together. And the reason behind that was, as much as his mother and he would say that, yeah, thank you for the inspiration for getting him up to do that every day. But in my head, I kind of used them. I kind of used him because when I was getting up, like say on like day 8, day 9 of the joggle, and I didn't want to go, I knew I had to go because Conan was going to do his 5K at some point.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
I give up that day, it mean he'd have to give up. So I kind of used them as motivation, and it was quite clever of me to think of that. But you get what I mean, yeah? We just got this connection and it works quite well. And I hope to do a lot more work with him as well over the years. because he's going to be a real clever kid.
Good man, good for you. That's a nice story, and purpose definitely comes from relations with other people. That's how I see it. You said there, like it's not about the likes, it's not about the follows. Like these are just sort of extrinsic numbers. It's about that deep connection with people. I think without a comparison or connection with people, there is no purpose. So to tie it into a group is great, but to tie it into one single person with a powerful story, I think that's going to light the fire up your ass every time.
Yeah, yeah, and then that's exactly how I see it, right? So you see someone on Instagram that's got like 200 followers, okay? And then you see someone that's got 2 million followers. What's the difference between them? Right? All it takes is that one person to see you a message. And we've all heard of the ripple effect, right? And that one person could either be in the 200 million follower list or it could be in the 200 follower list. Now that one person goes on to tell someone else and so on and so on and so on and so on. And the next thing you know, from them 200 followers, you know, your story has just gone on. Now, you might have the 200 million followers, but no one is interested in your stories. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Absolutely.
It only takes that one person to pass this message on. And that's how I see it. I don't see it as like the broader audience. I see it just as one person. And when I'm writing my post as well, I'm just writing to one person. And I think that's a good way of looking at it.
Definitely.
In my anyway.
What advice would you give to individuals who are perhaps searching for some sort of purpose or feel lost in their life at the moment?
I'd probably say to them, stop looking. I know that sounds stupid, but I think when you start looking for purpose and you start looking for something, it adds extra pressure on yourself. I certainly felt that pressure when I was trying to give up drugs. All I wanted to do was give up drugs, and I wanted it so bad, and this and that. Now, I've learned when I stress out about something, like my van cost me 5.5 grand last week, money that I didn't have. Now I had two choices. I could either stress out about it and go try and find a solution, or I could sit back and just let it happen. All right, because worrying solves nothing. And I wish how I feel now, I wish I felt like that when I was on drugs or some kind of problem, because I find when you're calm and you're collected and you let things come to you rather than going to try to find them, it happens a little bit more smoothly because you're more level-headed, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Also, half the things that you're worrying about don't even come to fruition.
Exactly that, yeah. You
Yeah.
know, those people that do drugs or those that are like big anxiety problems, and don't get me wrong, I'm still there. You're always thinking 6 months into the future. Um, there's just no need. And one thing I tell people that come through and they're like, how did you, how, how can I stop taking drugs? It's a question I have asked me a lot of times. And the first question I'll ask them, do you want to stop taking drugs? All right. And there's two answers you can get. And like they all say yes, but there's two different ways. You'll get the one person that's like, yeah, I want to stop, do anything to stop. And then you get the one person that thinks about the answer first. Now that person that thinks about the answer is not ready to stop, you know? And I'm a strong believer of you won't stop until you're truly ready. You know, until you've seen that defining moment in your life. Like for me, it was going to prison. For other people, it's like when they have their first child. Unfortunately, drugs isn't an easy one just to stop and go cold turkey. You normally need a defining reason. It is something you can search for. Like, it is something you can be determined towards, but you have to have that reason.
Hmm. I like that. Yeah, you won't stop unless you actually want to. I've recently I've done 52 days sober now without alcohol. It started in January, and all of last year I was like I wasn't really enjoying alcohol anymore at all. But it's part of our culture. You still go out, you still do it, and you just. But come January, I was like, right, I'm doing dry January, and I've just kept it going. 52 days now. Who knows where it's going to stop? I say this: I haven't quit forever. I'm just not drinking today. That's a trademark there. I'll put that on a t-shirt. But people have gone, God, well done, man. That's must be so hard. Like, and it's not at all, because I don't want to do it anymore. It's actually been really bloody easy, and I think that's it. When you've got the right frame of mind where you really want to stop, you ain't going back.
No, no, and that's exactly what I mean. But it's all about getting that frame of mind, and it's probably when people think like giving up drugs or alcohol, they think that's the hard part, but it's not. It is like you say, finding your purpose and finding that frame of mind. And I can honestly say now, I have days where I think, fuck this, a spliff or a line of coke or something would make everything so much better, But now I look at the bigger picture and I'm like, what would that solve? I'll just go for a run, or I'll go for a walk, or I'll go for a swim, or I'll do something else. I'll just take myself totally out of the equation, um, and see the bigger picture, really. See the life that I'm living now. Um, because it's not much of a life when you're on drugs. You're paying for someone else's car. That's the way I see it now.
Yeah, some drug dealer's BMW, isn't it? That's what you're paying for. I want to talk about your ultra endurance challenges a bit as well. So I know we mentioned at the start, like you literally started running 2.5 years ago. I can't believe it, and you've already run more miles than I have probably in my life. How do you train? This is because I know you've done 100-mile challenges, you've done 200-mile challenges, you've done 300-mile challenges. How do you train for something like that, and how do you fit it in and around like your already busy life?
I guess if you ask me this next year, I might be able to give you a little bit more of an experienced answer, because I've actually just started a training program,
Right.
proper program. Uh,
A real
you know,
program, your first real program.
yeah, something I spent a lot of time on writing, uh, which I'm hoping is going well. And it's the rest week, so it's going well so far. But I guess how I trained for the 200 miler, I didn't. Um, and
Brilliant.
it couldn't have gone any better. I was in the Earth Locker the whole way. Then for the 300 miler, I think I kind of just bounced into that. I was new to the ultra scene. I was new to running in general, and just I had that eye. I had that feeling like an heroin addict has for a fix. I was like, after I'd done the 200 mile, I was like, I want that again. I want the fame. I want everything that come with the 200 miler. It was a brilliant feeling. The buzz when you're out there, like it was like, yeah, I want it. But again, I didn't really train for it. I was running some heavy mileage each week, but I can't really tell you what I was doing, like block training and stuff. I was just running every day. Um, and then for the joggle, I kind of followed a training program for the joggle. Now, right, still inexperienced, put this training program together myself, and I thought, just go out and run as far as you bloody can every week. Right. So I was going out and I was doing 100-mile weeks, like back to back, covering something like 500-600 kilometers a month for 10 months. And then, to be perfectly honest, when I come to doing the joggle, my body was fucked. My body was beaten up. I had fasciitis in my feet. I wasn't in a very good state. I overtrained, which a lot of people were telling me I was doing. But I was like, yeah, all right, whatever. Because I just enjoy running, and I was just going out to run. I didn't see it as training. So I guess to answer your question, like, I'm probably not the best person to ask about
Yeah.
that. But one thing that gets me going in the morning. So I'll get up 4 in the morning, go do 10, 15K. Then I'll try and do another run then lunchtime and in the evening, because trying to work it around my work pattern is very difficult. Because I start work at like 7:30 in the morning, finish at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock. Doesn't matter what time I finish. Trying to fit it all in means I have to get up early in the morning. And I enjoy doing that. So I guess when I first started, I struggled getting up in the mornings to do it. Now it's like if I don't get up in the morning, I feel like I've wasted half the day, and it benefits me so much getting up that extra hour, extra 2 hours. Even if I just go for a walk or go to the gym or something, the feeling it gives me is like accomplished. I'm already better than everyone else because they're all still sleeping. Kind of feeling without sounding smug, it's just a little win inside my heart. Um, but but for the past 5 weeks, how my training has looked for. So my main goal is the Swiss Alps this year, Swiss Alps 100 miler, which is going to probably be one of the hardest, definitely one of the hardest races, but probably one of the hardest runs I've ever done as well. It covers something close to 10,000 meters of elevation in 100 miles, so it's like, straight up. But how my training has looked is I've got 8 pretty much back-to-back 50-mile races, 2 backyard ultras in the same week coming up.
2.
Yeah. So I'm running for Wales on the weekend in April, so on the Saturday into Sunday, and then possibly into Monday if we carry on going. And then on the Wednesday, I'm running for the Army Air Corps in a military-style 24-hour event. So that's going to be quite intense. But I'm seeing them all as training runs. Now, whereas before, I would go out every weekend, every day, and just run as far as I can, get that mileage up, compare with people on Strava. I want to beat them. I want to be the furthest runner and stuff. Now it's changed. I'm trying to do as less as I can, but be more productive with like my strength work, the gym work. The actual runs I do have changed. So I'm doing like tempo sessions, I'm doing long distance, and I'm doing like hill reps and stuff. Now I feel like I'm proper running, and I'm using my experience, my knowledge as a PTI, putting it into practice. And I think it's paying off. I mean, like I've lost a bit of weight over the past couple of weeks. I'm feeling healthy. I'm feeling fit. I got my first 50 miler at the beginning of March, and then I got another one at the end of March. So I guess that's going to be the point where if this training program's working or not.
It sounds like it's non-stop for you. But do you know what I liked about what you just said before? You just got out and ran. Sometimes people can overcomplicate it, or they can say paralysis by analysis. They can overthink what they're trying to do and achieve, and then not actually end up getting out and doing it. What you did, you just put your trainers on and got out there. And sometimes that's all you need to do.
Every day is like that for me. And like I'll say it to everyone as well. The problem is with people like, I love Strava, I love what you can do with Instagram and other stuff like that, but I also loathe them as well because you do compare yourself to others so much. And let's be honest, what half the people post is a lot of bullshit anyway, because a lot of people only post like the real good stuff. You don't really see what goes on behind the scenes. And I'm not speaking for everyone, but people out there will compare themselves to that. And you were right in saying it's not enough for someone just to get up in the morning, put their shoes on and go out for a run. They have to go out and run as fast as Tommy did yesterday, or they have to run as far as fucking John did yesterday, or something like that. Now, for me, I try not to compare myself to anyone. I use people as inspiration, but I don't compare myself to anyone because, where I could have ended up, I'm already in a better place. I don't need to be better than anyone. So, and I think that it's that word, that word adventure. When you put your shoes on, whether you're trying to lose weight or you want to get fitter or you just want to get out of the house, putting your shoes on and seeing it more as an adventure rather than a run. Because when you put the label run on things, it paints a big picture. But if you were adventuring, you can bloody go out, you can forward roll You can have the needs, you can walk, you can run, you can fly, you can do anything. You don't have to run, and that's what ultra running is all about. It should be bloody ultra walking because after 50 miles, everyone walks anyway,
Yeah.
unless you're some superhuman thing. But
Fair one, fair one. Now, obviously, you are called the mental health wanderer, with the pivotal word being mental health. I was wondering, what self care practices do you prioritize to sort of maintain your mental well being, especially during times of stress or intense physical exertion?
so probably talking. That's my biggest one now. I was very much the kind of person that would keep things bottled up inside me. Now I talk to people. On camp, we've got a brilliant welfare service. We're just a couple of ladies, and they're there to listen to you basically when you've got issues or you're stressed or something. And I preach to everyone every day to talk, and I wouldn't myself, but now I do. And it just takes a load off you. Just even if you're just annoyed and you're in a pissed off mood because someone just cut you up on the bike or something like that, just get it off your chest. Just don't keep it on your chest. Get it off, right? Any little thing. So that's my biggest bit of self care advice is just to talk and get it off your chest, even
So,
if it's too. Yeah.
yeah, so you're not saying necessarily like therapy or anything like that, just having a chat, even with a friend or a colleague or someone who will actually just, someone with an ear that will listen.
Yeah, yeah. So like I've got a couple of ways I deal with it. That nothing I do involves therapy. So I'll talk. I write a lot of my problems down. Um, I got a couple of diaries up on the shelf there. That I write. I've wrote down since my first daughter was born, so I'll write everything in there. Um, I also like my posts. I write my posts. Um, I find that helps. And I guess just I do a lot of relaxing as well now. I try to do yoga. I try to just generally lie on the floor, basically block out all sound and just really just connect and just actually hear my thoughts and slow down and hear myself think and try and feel what I want instead of going like a million miles per hour like my head wants to.
Mm.
Yeah, but it's it's the self care thing is difficult because like there's so many labels on stuff. It's like you tell someone you're doing yoga and they're like, oh, okay, you're doing yoga and all that, but it actually works. And I mean, I'm not bloody flexible or nothing. I just go and do some stretching. But taking that time out for yourself, it releases a lot of pressures and it does help. But I'd say my top two is talking and writing stuff down. And then like lastly is my other big output is like running and the physical side of things. But there's a lot more you can do before that point.
Yeah, I think that the key words you said there is just taking some time for yourself as well. And if you're doing something like running or like yoga, in that moment, all you have to think about is that activity. You don't have to think about what's going on in the world or who's annoyed you or anything like that. You can just sort of collect your thoughts and be at one with yourself. Have you got any specific self care routines or rituals that has like a significant impact on your mental health maintenance? Have you got like a morning routine that you do or anything like that?
So my whole day is a routine. It could be something to do with like the ADHD or something like that, but my whole day is a routine. But it helps. I mean, in the evenings, I start my morning off in the evenings. I know it sounds silly, but I do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you have to be prepped. If you want to train and you want to have that control over your life, you got to be prepped. Like I lay my socks out, my boxers, my shorts, my t-shirt, trainers, so on, all laid out ready for the morning. I even put the coffee in the mug. So when I wake up in the morning and I'm tired, all I have to do is roll out of bed, flick the kettle on, get dressed, pour the coffee, and I'm good to go. And then before you know it, you're halfway down the street and you're like, I'm awake. So you're making things easier for you. You're making life easier for you by having these things prepped. You're setting yourself up to fail if you don't prep. What's the saying? Fail to prepare, prepared to fail. is our motto in the army, you know. Um, and then I guess just going throughout the day now is like you have to expect you have to expect life to throw some shit at you. You're gonna get some stressful moments, you know. It's inevitable. But instead of like dealing with them when they happen, try and deal with them before they happen. Know you're going to go into work and your boss is going to be a dick or someone's going to be a knob to you, you know. And then when it happens, you kind of prepared yourself. Um, but the biggest one for me, I think, that really helps is in the evenings. So I'm quite a big influencer on Instagram where like I'll post every day and like I don't know what people think of people who post every day. Like, do they sit there waiting for the likes to come in? You know, do they wait for the comments to come in and everything? But what I do is I'll post or I'll do something. I'll chat to some people up till about 8 o'clock, and then as soon as that post goes live or something goes live, I'll put my phone down or I'll put my phone on like silent mode, and I won't check that phone again. I might not even check that post for 2 3 days because of the influence it has. Now, and I'll put my phone to one side. I'll message the family back, whatever. But from 8 o'clock every night, I will not go on social media, except for the rare occurrences. But to me, that changed me. And now I'll pick up a book. I'll watch something on TV. I'll just take them moments out for myself. And then I'll naturally drop off to sleep then. But even that couple of hours, because like we can all get caught up in these phone things and technology these days, and you know, and I think that's having that routine, being quite strict with it, is very good. You know, and it's opened me up as well. It's opened me up to like talking to people in the corridor, just general going out for a cuppa, tea and biscuits in the evenings and all that with no phones, and just makes a massive difference.
Yeah, I think we're definitely more aware of it as a society in these last few years of how much they absorb our time and attention. These devices. So to be able to put it away in the evening, it's great. We've all done it. I do it now when I put a picture of me running up. I'm checking the likes constantly, and you're checking it one by one as well. Every time you check, it's an extra one. If you leave it a few
Yeah,
days, it'd be a nice hit. Then you'll just say, "Ooh, 20, fantastic."
that's exactly it. Um, and the other one as well. So like on my Facebook page, right, it's quite weird because if something gets loads of likes on Instagram, it doesn't get many likes on Facebook, and if it gets loads on Facebook, it doesn't get any on Instagram. It's weird, but they're two different people. Okay,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
people are two different people. Now, how do I say this? All right. It's almost like the way I explain it is it's like showing my mother a photo on Instagram. She's younger, right, and whatever, cooler, and then Facebook is like my nan. So I have to talk more nicely. Sorry to anyone who sees it from. I have to talk more nicely, and they like a nice juicy story. Okay. Now you can really get caught up in that when something gets 1,000 likes and then other things get like 30 likes. That can really have an effect on you, whether you feel motivated or high or low. Um, and it was affecting me because some things were going above 1,000 likes, and it was just insane. And then other things then were getting like 40, 50, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Why is this happening? And I was like, I knocked off the like thing in the end, so I can't even see my own likes and all that because I don't care really. But when you see the numbers, you compare yourself, and I'm like, I don't care. Yeah, I really don't care.
Absolutely. Gareth, I asked you for before the podcast interview, I asked you to think of your favorite motivational quote. You've had a few days now, so I'm sure it's going to be a stoker. What is your favorite motivational quote?
Yeah, so it's a quote that I come up with on one of my runs before, and it's something that I've sworn by. It's basically when you feel like giving up, that's a perfect chance to become unstoppable.
Yeah, that's written on one of your t-shirts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've seen it. I like that. I like that.
Yeah, it comes from my 200-mile run because that whole bloody thing was, that whole thing was impossible, but it's made me feel unstoppable now.
I suppose that's it. It's at that point of where you feel like breaking, where you feel like stopping. That is the point where you've got the decision. You've got the decision to either give up and stop, or you could push through and actually become unstoppable, like you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I like it. I've actually got another one of yours. I was watching some of your YouTube videos, and there was a clip where you're speaking to camera, and I think it was during your 200-mile run, and you just had to go across a river, maybe, or something. So that's it. Yeah, there was no path around. You couldn't go over a bridge or anything like that. You had to go through and wade through a river during your run, and you ended that video with, "Remember, it could always be worse." And I loved that, and I thought that's the attitude to have, isn't it? It's like you've just had to wade waist deep through a river on a 200-mile run, and that's the way you framed it. It's like, yeah, it could be worse, and I love that. That's good. It's positive. Um, what does the future hold then? What's next? I think you've given us a list anyway. You've got about 1 million races going on, or no, training races, and then you've got what's the next big challenge?
The next big challenge for me is the Swiss Alps 100.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah,
August. That's going to be insane. Different country. But it's another adventure, and I got to be honest. The event organizers have been absolutely smashing, so I'm really looking forward to it.
yeah.
But like between us, I really want to do well in it as well. I don't just want to go out there and like finish it. I actually want to try and just do it as best I can in the best shape as I can. Whether I come first or last, I want to finish it and think, yeah, you felt good starting it, and you feel good finishing it as well. That's my biggest goal for out there.
Good man. And if people want to follow you and watch your journey, where can they find you?
Yeah, follow Mental Health Wanderer on Facebook or Instagram, and I have links all through up. There's going to be live trackers for all my races this year, and it's normally quite an adventure with me. Nothing is ever plain sailing, and I always find a way to make it quite entertaining. So feel free to follow along.
Yeah, definitely. We'll be watching as well. Gareth, thank you very much for your time this evening. Good luck in your adventures, and we'll be keeping a close eye.
Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you. See you later.
Yes, thank you.
Hello again, and thank you for listening to the Rockman Podcast episode. If you enjoyed that, you can click the link here to access all the episodes from the Rockman Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe.